tackle the climate crisis. Now, I've spent many years working with a variety of stakeholders to tackle the climate crisis, and I know firsthand that we still have gaps and that there's still a lot to do to build on the momentum that we have, but to really ramp up to get to the pace and scale that we need. And one thing that really is different now from 10 years ago, certainly even 5 years ago, is the amount of youth leadership in the movement. You know, since the signing of the Paris Agreement, there have been ups and downs in international climate politics, but one thing that has remained constant, and in fact not remained constant but grown, is that young people everywhere have been standing up to call for more ambitious action and to take part in ambitious action and to lead ambitious action everywhere, from the streets to the boardrooms, and now to increasingly having young people being part of official delegations as negotiators. So this is a whole of society problem. It is everybody. It's not an abdication to young people to solve the problem on their own, but we really need you to be working together with those of us who've been working on the problem for a while, to continue to be loud and vocal about what the science is saying that we require, to be specific about what policymakers need to do to play their role, and to be part of the solutions, whether you're working in civil society, in business, in government, or in any other function. This year, COP27 is going to be crucial because we have an opportunity to really see whether governments are going to come back to deliver on the promise they made collectively in the Glasgow Pact to really ratchet up the urgency. You know, the science and our lived experience on the ground everywhere in the world is telling us that we really must make this the decade of delivery, that we have to take action now, not in 2030 or 2040 or 2050, but these next few years we have to halve emissions and really start building more resilience. And I think that makes this summit and your commitments very timely in helping to bring that intergenerational and intersectional perspective, opinion and experience into the collaborations, the innovations, the problem solving which drives solutions. And that problem solving often requires different perspectives to come together. And you all represent one thing that we need right now, that's asking the right questions and addressing gaps, holding those in decision-making power accountable, pushing them for increased action, and becoming those in decision-making power. I believe very strongly in what we call the ambition loop, that increased action from one part of society will drive more ambition from others, particularly from non-state actors in civil society and business, will make it more politically possible for national governments to be more ambitious and to make their commitments bolder, which in turn gives business and investors more certainty to be bolder. So we all have a role to play there. And what all of us as non-state actors do does influence what governments believe is possible in terms of domestic and international climate policy. And we know that climate change is a collective action problem. So no country, no institution, no sector, no generation can solve it alone. So let's continue to work through and strengthen the multilateral process that enables us to come together as a global family, and let's drive all of the non-state actor actions through the various collaborations and initiatives we have to tackle these challenges. Finally, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing and wish you a great day within your working groups, and let's keep driving faster and faster ambition and action together to tackle the climate crisis.
We can be.
We must be.
The first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone.
Everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
where no one wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die of
Diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
Is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone
Goes to school.
and education gives us the knowledge
And skills.
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
To thrive and be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
we will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets at home,
At school.
and at work.
We will live in a world where there is sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth.
Lead to decent jobs.
For everyone.
And we will live in a world where our industry
our infrastructure
And our
Best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
Inside our countries.
And between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back.
What we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas. We'll restore
and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
Animals.
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together.
Partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals.
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
All right, good morning, everyone. A beautiful Friday to you. I don't know if you can hear or see me. If you can hear me, if you can see me, just let me see your favorite emoji in the chat. Just react in the chat. Let me know we're together this morning. I'm waiting. Amazing, beautiful. Good morning. On behalf of the leadership of United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, Nigeria, I want to welcome you to another session of Climate Actors Accelerators program. I believe you've had an amazing time so far, and what you learned last week, you have been able to apply during the course of the week. It's good to always find opportunities to apply whatever you are learning in the masterclass, because you can actually internalize it and make it a part of your life. So this morning we are here again, and it promises to be an amazing session. I believe our facilitator is ready to go. But before that, I would just like to take few feedbacks from us. First and foremost, I want to find out, how has the session been for you? You've this is the third session and the third week, and I know that you must have had one or two things you've learned. So I want to just get our feedback and first of all, ask how has the session been. You can raise your hand and unmute if you want to speak. And if you are camera shy, you can just drop your comments in the chat. But yes, I'd love to see our faces and interact with us as much as I can. Okay, Jonathan is raising his hand. Jonathan, you can unmute and speak. Let me hear from you.
Opportunity. Good morning, my honorable colleagues. Last week's session was insightful because we have learned a lot from two resource persons. We learned about forest and biodiversity management. We have seen how it goes, the essence of the forest and how we can preserve it. Also goes through the forest destruction, which we all know what is happening in our own environment. And from Bauchi State, last year to this year, we have experienced so many challenges on climate change. We have seen the consequences of deforestation, causes of destructions, measures of how we can conserve the forest by avoiding deforestation, reducing pollution, and so many things. So it has been an awakening call to us to do the needful thing by putting this training into action. We need to start educating and enlightening people around us, visiting some secondary schools because they are the targets one that they can move into universities. So by doing that, I believe we can put all our hands together to see that we have changed the narrative. That is all what I can say.
Where do you think do a kissing being something? Yoga.
Abbas, if you can hear me, we can't hear you clearly.
Okay, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Abbas.
Participant, I hope you are doing good morning. How's family? So for the last class, I was not be able to attend. I don't know if there is anything that you are going to, even though I have seen that they are saying that. Hello, can you hear me?
I can't hear you, Abbas. Is that a comment, a question, a contribution? Which one are you giving us?
Okay. So actually, I'm very delighted to seeing myself here for Bukandi because the program is very educative and we are enjoying it. Since we are from the area, Kasuna is among the area that is facing ocean. We are dealing with climate change. We are seeing the effects of it. Wish again to road it. Actually, I missed the previous class. Hello, can you hear me now?
Please go ahead, Abba.
I missed the previous class, even though I have gone into the YouTube channel. I watched it. I've seen the message you have brought that we should write on the topic you have been.
All right, Abbas, sorry to cut you. If you can hear me, if you have any concerns as regards the sessions, the masterclass, whatsoever, there's an email you can send your concerns to. We'll look into it and then we'll address it. All right, Abbas.
I think I'll put on before I comment, since I even got actually know what you have been discussing about. I just joined now. So hello?
That's fine, Abbas. That's fine, Abbas. We can connect after this and then we'll talk about whatever concern you have. Thank you so much, Abbas. I'll take just one more person. I think I can see Chizobam Ajoko. I'd like Chizobam to unmute and just share what our experience has been so far. And we can now welcome our facilitator for today. Chizobam, you can unmute your mic and speak. All right, Chizobam, can we have you now? You can unmute. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Yes. My name is Shamsuddin Ahmed Idris, speaking from Jigawa. Regarding the last week class, yes. Regarding the last week class, I personally really learned so much about biodiversity and its conservation, how we can conserve them, how we can protect the plants and animals in the forest and even the environment itself. That instructor has really done so much beyond my expectation, honestly, while going through his slides. And the second one too, we also learn about recycling and reusability, how we can generate waste within ourselves and how we can control them. There are so many things I could remember. He has been changing us from this Zoom to another medium again, where we will answer a question why we are in that platform and what do we want to achieve? How can we control waste? He even gave an example of how many of us have went to market to buy some things where 2 or 3 have expressed what they have bought from the market. And he asked, which kind of waste have we generated and how can we control them? So honestly, last week's class has been very impactful and very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shamsuddin. Thank you so much for your contributions. So, not to waste much of our time, our facilitator is here already, and I'd like to introduce him to the house and get things running as soon as we can, so that we can get the session started. Okay. This morning, facilitating the session on environment and ecosystem restoration is Ogunlade Olamide Martins. And Olamide he has built capacity in policy advocacy, social research, and impact evaluation. His works covers tobacco control, budget transparency, political finance, tax tax justice, climate change, and extractive governance. He is a fellow of the University of Washington Leadership and Management in Health program and a certified facilitator from same institution. Olamide Martins has a number of articles to his credit. Can you just join me with a warm welcome? Bring Olamide Martins to the stage as he takes the mic and commences his session. Comment.
Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Welcome on board this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Adebayo, for having me, and to every member.
Thank you for coming around.
Thank you very much. And also for every member of this platform, I consider it a very rare privilege to be addressing you. Somebody said it takes courage to sit down and listen. It also takes courage to stand up and talk. So having said that, I think I should also, I don't know if I'm audible enough. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So once again, my name is Olamide Martins. I work for CAAP. CAAP is Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, based in Lagos, but of course with a, let me say, branch office in Abuja. So I currently work in the climate change desk as the senior program manager for CAAP. So my topic is quite simple, like Mr. Joseph said earlier. It's something that we can relate with, quite frankly, because we are a product of the environment. And like the last speaker said, we hold the environment some duty of care. So my topic is, Mr. Joseph, are you going to share my slide from your hand? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, are you sharing my slide from the back end?
No, it's not coming out.
No, I want him to share my slide. He has it.
All right, so you've been made a co-host. You can share from your end.
It's all right. Can you guys see my slide?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Thank you very much. So like I did mention, my topic is quite simple. It's something that we do relate with. Of course, we are a product of the environment. And like I said earlier, we hold the environment, some duty of care. So I'll be attempting to take us through a journey, and the journey will focus on environment and ecosystem restoration. You agree with me that we have, to a reasonable extent, altered the environment that we live in. This is not the natural state that was handed over to our forefathers. They did play their part, handed over to us, but then we can also look at how things are changing within our environment space and the significance of restoring the environment back to normalcy for us to be able to get maximum output from the environment. So this is my topic for today. And I hope that this table will guide us. So the first thing I'll be talking about is introduction, then what makes up the environment. We have the natural environment, and we have the built environment, otherwise called the altered environment. And we have, the third point there is the human impact on the ecosystem. That is you and I. What are we contributing? How are we influencing the state of the environment? And then the fourth point here is then ecosystem restoration. Looking at how we have impacted the environment, how can we as individuals, begin to restore normalcy back to the environment? And then we also ask ourselves, why restoration? Why and why not? What if we don't? What will happen? And then if we do, why should we? What is the significance of restoring the environment, back to normalcy? And then the sixth point there is, are there any international obligation? Is it a global concern or something that we shouldn't worry about? Perhaps we're not talking about it globally. We also try to look at the global dimension to why, ecosystem restoration is important. We'll consider best practices. And I think this is where we'll have some take-home assignments. What could work in your own domain, in trying to restore the environment. And then we try to also look at, stakeholders within the ecosystem restoration space. Who are the stakeholders that should help restore the environment? Then we attempt to conclude. So I hope to be guided by this table of contents. So introduction. You agree with me that urbanization, increasing human population, and natural disasters are largely responsible for environmental degradation. For instance, now, prior to Nigeria's independence in 1960, we're not up to this number. So because we now have huge number of people within Nigeria, you expect the same number to also impact the environment. And of course, no thanks to urbanization. Just yesterday, I was talking to a friend that in Lagos, for instance, every family in Nigeria must have a representative. That is just the reality. And I also know in Kano, for instance, in Rivers State, in Enugu, all those major cities are attracting huge population. And this huge population needs to survive. And in trying to survive, they alter the state of the environment. And no thanks also to natural disaster, which we don't pray for, but happen at times. The case of tsunami, landslide, erosion, earthquakes, and the like. All these, when you put them together in a bus, have a way of, degrading the ecosystem and making the ecosystem vulnerable and seeking for repair. That's by the way of introduction. And also, environment is fundamental to human well-being and the quality of the human life. There's a saying that you're a product of the environment. The environment, not just the social environment, your physical environment also determines the level of your mental health, the level of your reasoning capacity, and of course, how you also grow as an individual, how you blossom as an individual, the quality of your life in general is also a function of the physical environment that you find yourself. So you can begin to imagine some of your friends who are living in some environment that have negative impact on them. It is not their fault because they are products of the environment, that they operate in. And of course, the value of this ecosystem to human is immeasurable. When these systems are damaged, when the environments are badly damaged, we cannot adequately measure this damage. And then let me just take you through the global conversation around loss and damage. Most of the issue that we are finding around this space, getting loss and damage for vulnerable communities, measurement of infractions, destructions to the environment are hardly very, very difficult to measure and then to manage. So replacing these services will be very, very challenging and costly. And that is why we have to be very, very cautious of how we treat our immediate environment and how we relate with the environment, because actually the environment is not ours. It is given to us to nurture, to care for, and to pass on to our next generation. And the last point here is that the conscious maintenance of our natural environment for future generation is important. It's an important insurance that we need, in the face of ongoing climate change that we are facing. So if you want the best for your child, it's not just putting that child in the school that is worth it. It's also nurturing the physical environment within which you train your child. Because like I did mention earlier, the physical environment has a way of shaping, the child's mentality and the well-being of the individual within it. So let's try to attempt, to define what the environment is. It consists of land, based ecosystems such as the grassland. If you look at the picture I shared, that's a typical environment. From the northern pole of that picture, you see cities emerging, and you see how the city is trying to make some conservation in the down south. So this is an environment in the making. It consists of land, grassland, and forests, aquatic ecosystems such as the rivers, the submarines, the wetland, and the coastline, including mangroves and seagrass meadows. So either of these makes up the environment. A combination of all these also makes up the environment. Where you are at the moment, joining this call from is an environment. Where I am is an environment. The structure with which I am right now is built within an environment and similar to you as well. So the environment is not something abstract, it's where we are, where we function and have our well-being as individuals. So what the natural environment is quite funny, because environment could be physical, could be natural, could be built, could be altered. Now, our attempt to uncover what a natural environment means. It is the non-human made surroundings and conditions that support coexistence between living and non-living things. So a natural environment is handed over to man. That's why I said it is not man-made. It is non-human made. You don't have any contribution to the making of the environment that you find yourself. For instance, we grew up knowing that there's River Niger and there's River Benue. None of us were around when those rivers were created, if you want to go the way of religion. But we were handed over these resources, these natural resources, to care, to cater, and of course, to nurture them with the intention to pass them over to our generation yet to come. So a natural environment is non-human made condition that supports coexistence. And of course, it encompasses two major components. We have the ecological units, such as the soil, the vegetation, and so on. And we have the natural, universal natural resources that includes the air and the water. But these two components makes up the natural environment. That's why I call it natural, not man-made. Now, there's another part or a component that is man-made, and that's why we call it altered and built environment. Recall I said, because there is urbanization and increasing population of people, people now tend to create artificial environment for them to survive. I don't know what part of Kano you are joining this call from, or me talking right now, I'm in Ikeja. Ikeja in Ogba, Lagos State, where I am talking right now, used to be a coastline environment surrounded by water with some fresh vegetation, but all those are gone because human beings have, eroded the space, cut down the forestry, shifted the water back with the intention to survive. So they created a built environment. It's like an human-made, imaginary, that has come to existence, rely on human knowledge. So the built environment have been fundamentally transformed by your own activities and by my own activities and the influences that you and I are making to create cities, towns, and to expand infrastructures. Because of our quest for social services, so to say, what we call social services or social amenities, making cities so that our submarine cables can pass conveniently, our water pipes can flow conveniently, our road network can become more wider. We are creating environment. We are distorting nature. We are making our imaginary conception to become real to accommodate our survival. So this environment is built on absolute disregard, and I want to emphasize this, on absolute disregard for the well and continuous being of living entities. For instance, like I did mention, I'm sure you will agree with me that the forest, the animals within the aquatic bodies are also living bodies. They are living entities that also have their whole role in maintaining sanity within the environment. But when we are making cities, when we are expanding infrastructures, we care so less about their own survival. We distort the environment just for our own selfish, our own selfish comfort, so to say. In trying to make life for ourselves at a maximum level, we distort the other living components within the environment that also relies on that environment for survival. And lastly, built environment provides seemingly maximum comfort. Emphasize the word seemingly. We have considered it to be maximum comfort, but then there's a notion to it. How much of comfort do we have in the built environment? And I think we'll also get to that in the course of this presentation. So I think you now understand the difference between the natural environment and the built environment. The former is non-human made, and the latter is entirely made by man, no thanks to cities and towns and the expansion of infrastructures that we have considered necessary. So human impacts on the ecosystem. Like I did mention, there's rapid population growth. If you want to rely on literature, Lagos State is about 22 million. That's the size of how many countries in Africa. You see people trying to survive within that state. And coincidentally, Lagos State has the lowest landmass in Nigeria, but with the highest population. So where are these people living? They are putting pressure on the environment. They are cutting down trees to survive. And all these are the expense of the environment. Then deforestation, cutting down of trees, mostly illegally, for furniture purposes, for local trade, and for global politicking. And of course, degradation. Many people considered or go into illegal mining without recourse to, environmental sanity and the interest of frontline communities where this mining operation takes place. Then fragmentation and loss of natural habitat, like I did mention, where we now consider cities, where at some point forests and mangroves, but because of our increasing population and of course our increasing pressure on the environment, natural habitat have been taken over by artificial creation, or with the intention to provide maximum comfort for man, which I think we are having, so to say. Then environmental pollution, also part of the human impact on the environment. People have argued that environmental pollution is caused by industries, releasing carbon monoxide and methane to the environment. Yes, it is true, but you have human beings running these factories, and the produce coming from these factories are also servicing human needs. So that's a very serious issue. And also, lastly, the climate change. You agree with me that this is a very major issue that the world is contending with presently. There's high volume of depletion of the ozone layer that is making us susceptible to, the aftermath of climate crisis, including earthquakes, landslide, fault lines, and the likes. So all these are human impacts on the ecosystem. You and I, to be serious, these are the things that we are causing on the environment that we find ourselves at the moment. So let's try to define what ecosystem restoration is, because when you look at how we have accumulated our activities destroying the environment, how does reparation looks like? How does restoration looks like? Is it possible for us to bring a damaged environment back to a state of normalcy? Let's try to see. If you look at the picture in your left corner, there's an attempt to revive this land here. This was in 2008. Look at what was achieved in 2009. That tells you that you have to wait, almost no significance here. You have to wait till around 2011 before you can restore normalcy. Look at the little progress achieved over the years, but yet this will not still take you back to the original state of this environment. I can presume here that there's a drainage or there was a dredging here that altered the space of the flow of water in this particular environment. It used to be, covered with grassland, but because of human activity, either for irrigation purposes, that is necessary because of climate change, that is not making rate to fall. Can you see the connection in these issues? Now man has to create artificial source of water, and increase artificial source of water, dredging has to take place. When dredging takes place, you open up the earth. In trying to open up the earth, there's a distortion, and animals, aquatic beings are being altered, and there's disparity in the, in the makeup of the earth. So ecosystem means assisting in the recovery of ecosystems that have been degraded, destroyed, or damaged. And I think I have to emphasize this. When you degrade the earth, you reduce the quality of the earth. When you destroy the earth, to return back to normalcy is quite very, very difficult. When you damage, you can as well restore, but it takes a longer period of time. So this is what ecosystem restoration means. Assisting to recover. Certainty of recovery is not there, but then you assist to recover. It is not always possible to return an ecosystem to its original state. We must only create the condition necessary for recovery. Like I did mention, you can return back to the normal state. When those activities have taken place, distorted the environment, you can't take it back to the normal state. You can only create the environment, hoping that time, we heal reasonably, but most of the time, it doesn't still return back to the normal state. Then also the economic benefit of it, interventions exceed the cost of investment, whereas inaction is at least 3 times more costly than ecosystem restoration. Some have said that why then do we have to restore when we don't have the chances of returning back to normalcy? Yes, we still have to restore, because not restoring is 10 times, if not more, 3 times more costly than the environment. For instance, now, look at this picture here. Imagine that this particular picture was left to remain as it was in 2008. Then you can begin to imagine the level of damages that would have caused on those who depend on this particular environment for survival. So it's always cheaper to restore, even though you might not get the accurate restoration done. because the cost of not restoring is quite heavy. It also means conserving the environment that are still intact to sustain biodiversity. I'm sure you would have been taught this. And then to continue to store greenhouse gases. One of the issue or the major issue of climate change is that we don't have enough natural assets to store gases anymore, these greenhouse gases anymore. So they are finding their ways to the atmosphere. But when we retain, when we restore, when we conserve our ecosystem, we have enough natural base or natural store of greenhouse gases that will, of course, help us in our fight against climate change, right? And also, between now and 2030, this is 2024, we have just 6 years, restoration of about 3 million hectares of degraded terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem could generate a whooping sum of $9 trillion in ecosystem services. And of course, remove between 13 and 26 gigaton of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. We have currently about 30 gigatons of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere that needs to be absorbed somewhere, as against them finding their free flow in the environment, in the atmosphere, causing climate change that we now have to deal with. So why restoration? We might need to ask ourselves that, since I have said that it's always very difficult to return back to normal. It's just like when you, God forbid, someone have an accident and then there was a surgery that took place. You don't expect that part of your body to still remain the way God created it, so to say. But then you still have to do it because you can't live with the pain. You can't survive managing the pain that you can minimize or reduce. So restoration is still important to mitigate climate change. For our friends who are living in the north, you agree with me that the north, somebody even said it earlier, that the north is exposed to quite a number of climate change crises. Perhaps people have paid little attention to restoration efforts. So for us to be able to limit or mitigate climate crisis and hot biodiversity loss that is on the increase, we need to restore. We just need to restore. We don't have capacity yet as Africans, even as Nigerians, to be able to deploy artificial intelligence in our food production or the likes. So because we don't want to go through that route, which is even more expensive, we have to restore. And then because our biodiversity are losing out, we are losing them in their patterns, in their numbers, we have to restore. Then more importantly, to ensure food security. Somebody said we can survive without every other thing, but not without water and food. I doubt if there's anybody here that can survive without food. I know that you are going on a fasting. You just have to eat. Maybe you are fasting. There's sometimes that you have to eat as well. So to ensure food security, we have to restore. To sustain economic development, we have to restore. Because some of the goods that we trade in, I don't know if you can hear me still. I'm hearing some background noises.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. So to sustain economic development, we have to restore. Like I did mention, some of the goods that we exchange in the international markets are products of the environment. So when the environment is badly altered, there is nothing to sell in the international market. And when there is nothing to sell in the international market, there is no foreign exchange. And of course, back home, there is hunger in the land. Like I did mention, food security. We have to restore to keep our position and relevance in the international market as a major player within that space. And also for health and general well-being concerns, we have to restore. For the sake of our health, our mental sanity, and the quality of the products that comes from that environment, we have to restore. So are there any international obligations as regards environmental restoration? Yes. And of course, you agree with me that United Nations General Assembly Decree on Ecosystem Restoration of 2021 and 2030 is quite explicit. Now we are 3 years into this decree. The question is what is changing or what has changed? Unfortunately, most of the governments in Africa are yet to adopt or domesticate this decree, citing incapacity or lack of, for paucity of funds for that purpose, But then we have the issue between right here, scaring at in our face. So there's a decree, and this decree reminds us of the fact that it is not a local problem. It is a general concern. I mean, when you look at the food system in the world, there's a massive decline because of the quality of environment where these food products are coming from. So we are expected within this decree to be able to adopt local measures that will help us restore our environment. But then I searched through, the Nigerian, policy space. I could not lay my hand on any clean document that tried to address this. Only what I saw was that 6 governments in Africa, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, the Gambia, Niger, and Nigeria are attempting to protect 14 million hectares of land. But how they are going about this nationally is still unclear. So in December 2020, world leaders adopted the Kumi-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework because of the massive level of losses that our biodiversity is suffering across the world. The world leaders adopted this framework, and they are hoping to domesticate or have internal policies that will help them in the implementation. But none is also seen across the Nigerian policy space, and that's quite unfortunate. So the framework outlines goals for 2050 to be achieved via qualitative targets, action by 2030 to protect and restore nature. But I don't know how much of this is done naturally, like I did mention. And this is like a take-home assignment for people like us who are working within the policy space to see how Nigeria or maybe the sub-region states in Nigeria are domesticating these international decrees or treaties to be able to protect the environment. Yes, like I said, we have some take-home assignments. These are best practices in our effort to restore the environment. First, we need to look at the state of the environment. What is the degree of degradation? How massive is the degree of degradation? Because the practices or the solution that you adopt will largely depend on the degree of degradation, destruction, or damages, done. There are some methods that will not work for you. You consider the degree of degradation, you consider the time of degradation, you consider the impact of degradation before you can look at the practices that can work for you, depending on your peculiarity and your area of stay. So the first is enhancement. And enhancement means that ecosystem processes or species are restored, excuse me, but the system remains far from its pristine state. So when you enhance an environment because you consider it highly degraded, you cannot return it back. You can only you can only achieve some level of recovery or restoration. For instance, in a place where there's massive deforestation, you agree with me that you don't cut trees today and you expect trees to grow tomorrow. It takes years for trees to grow. And because mostly it's not even within our years of existence, and that's why it is always advised that when you cut a tree, the best time to have replaced it is 10 years ago. So when you cut a tree, you don't expect it to grow immediately. So you can only enhance when you intend to have some level of restoration, but not entire restoration. There's also rehabilitation. So ecosystem is significantly improved, but remains quite distinct from its pre-degraded condition. Excuse me. Typical of environment that have suffered massive mining activities. I don't know, there's anybody that comes from a place where mining is the major occupation of the people there. I am from Ekiti State, and there's a particular community in Ekiti State called Ayetoro. Ayetoro community is known for massive mining of gemstone and quartzite and mica and schist. So when you go to this community, there were so many attempts to rehabilitate, but then it's still quite difficult because when you mine, you expose the hard surface. And because of the poor regulation from government and oversight function, there is absolute disregard for cleanup system and for refuel processes. So it has not worked. The ecosystem is significantly improved, but it remains quite distinct, not at the original state. Please, maybe if you're not talking, you can just mute yourself so that you can hear me clearly. Thank you very much. Then reclamation. This system stabilizes the land and restores sufficient soil to rejuvenate the land without attempting to restore the condition. So when you can reclaim a land, that's why I said depending on the environment that you are in and the level, the type of degradation and the level of degradation. You can consider reclamation purposes where you want to introduce soil for the purpose of revegetation. You want to revegetate. Perhaps what was done there is you have some level of desertification and you want to put life back to the environment. You can revegetate. But then in trying to revegetate, you still don't restore the condition. You can stabilize the land by providing sufficient soil to revegetate, but you will still not be able to restore the condition because it takes a natural process that spans through lengths of time. Then replacement. You can build a new environment that meets some conservation objectives, but far less when compared with degraded environment, common in wetland management. So like I said, if the degradation is massive, the degree of the destruction is huge, you might just want to replace. But this is quite heavy, to consider because we have people that have cultural affinity with their lands and with their soils. And when you tell them to leave an environment for natural replacement, they find it very, very difficult to consider as an option. So who are the stakeholders in the restoration processes? Governments at the federal and state. So we need to ask our government if there's any policy at the federal level that speaks to restoration of the ecosystem. If there is any, then we need to ask how they are implementing these policies, the level of inclusion. When I talk about, I mean how people contributed to the making and the implementation of those policies. But then we also have to ask our state government, who are the subnationals, the level of adoption or what works in their state. Because yes, they always say that policies, even though it's federal, impacts are always felt at the state. Then the original landowners, those who owns the land by virtue of inheritance and cultural affinities, we need to also consider them in our engagement processes. And the local government authority, volunteers and community group. I think this is where we fall into. Those of us who are volunteers and who works in community structures, we're also stakeholders. So if we see any level of degradation within the environment that we find ourselves, we can talk to the government, we can talk to our public authorities. We can also suggest the measures that I mentioned here, depending on the level of degradation and what you think is visible within the resources space. Then also private landowners. In some countries, we have people that have ownership of lands because of trust, given to them by government to manage. These are also stakeholders. Then non-governmental organizations who should know the ideals from the reality and attempt to bridge the gap. So in conclusion, because of time, in the face of the rapidly changing climates and the cautions from established science, worse days might be ahead. And I don't mean to scare us. If urgent and proactive measures backed by implementable policy direction and improved behavioral patterns are not taken to address environmental degradation and damages done to the ecosystem. So I intend to say here that if actions are not taken on time, if people are not becoming more conscious of the environment, particularly the activities in this environment, worse days might be here. Climate change issues might increase. We might lose more biodiversity. We might struggle with food security. We might begin to have issues with prevailing health concerns. Mental health issues might also worsen because, like I said earlier, we are products of the environment. So if you want to rely on what science is telling us, on what research is telling us, we have to be more cautious with how we treat our environment, knowing fully well that this environment is not ours, but it is given to us in trust and in confidence, with which we will be responsible for, particularly as we pass them over to our next generation. Thank you very much for your time. I hope I'm able to communicate one or two things to you in the course of my presentation. Hello.
All right, thank you so much. It's been an awesome time listening and gleaning wisdom from what you have shared this time. I believe lost. I'm sure they have, and I know that they would have a lot to ask. So it's question time. If you have questions, you can either use it or raise your hand, and would ask them to speak. But it's important that when we've had an hour to learn, we can as well ask questions. Is a way of getting feedback. So if you have questions, just raise your hand, and then I'm sure Olamide Martins will be able to do justice to your questions. So if you have questions, let me see you raise your hand. Questions, questions, questions. And if you don't have questions, it means he has done an amazing job. Okay. Jonathan Gideon asked question.
Sorry. I don't have a question, but I just want to get the there's a question he asked. He said it's an assignment. How the sub-region areas in Nigeria. I don't know what the rest of the things he said was because I missed that. My network was glitching. So I was wondering if I could get that. And also, sorry, when you asked me to speak, I was having serious network issues. So
all right, that's fine. Maybe after now we could still have you speak. All right, yes. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. So when I was on the slide that detailed the stakeholders within the environment space, you and I, naturally, we are products of the environment. So we are natural stakeholders. So I said we should be able to also ask our government if there are policies that speaks to the protection or the restoration of the ecosystem. I couldn't lay my hand on any at the national level, unfortunately. When you talk to government, they'll tell you it's work in progress. So, but because we function within the subnational entities, we can as well ask our state governments these questions. Lagos State might have some, but how documented are these policies and what is the level of inclusion? How are people being carried along in the implementation processes, right? So that's why I said that as a major stakeholder within the environment space, we have the obligation to also engage the state actors. What measures are being taken to restore the environment? If they ask you, why are you asking them? Then you tell them because you feel involved and you have the concern because the product of the environment is what you are, and the consequences of the environment will also be equally shared, including with those who are in government. And because of the connection that I did mention, climate change, food security, biodiversity laws, our government needs to put in place measures by way of policy and regulation to be able to restore the environment. So that was the point I made earlier.
okay.
I don't know if it's clear enough.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. I can see Jonathan Gideon's hand up, but before that, there's a question in the chat in the Q&A session, and I'd just like to read that out to you. Okay, so for the person asking about materials, you will definitely get materials. That's not a challenge. After now, we'll have the materials sent to you. Then someone is asking, how can policies work when there is no will, or rather little understanding of how important the environment is?
That's a very, very interesting question. Unfortunately, because we have abandoned governance to those we consider as politicians, we are now facing the risk of inefficiency from them, so to say. Yes, the question is, who are those that we elected? What is the quality of those that we elected in the first instance to make policies for us for a very critical component of our discussion, such as the environment? We hope that in the nearest future, people that come up to us will have this necessary conversation around plans and programs before we even consider them fit for elections. Yeah, that's by the wayside. But policy making is beyond politicians. We have people who are careered in that discipline to make policies. They're administrators within government, parastatals, ministries, and departments, right? But the question I'm making is, now we have a policy, we need political will for the implementation, and we need knowledge to drive the making of policies. We have a fundamental human role as citizens of this country, or as a global citizen, so to say, by engaging government. We can engage them. How many of us have people picked up this policy? If there's any, look at the content. We can deploy the opportunities in the Freedom of Information Act and ask them questions. Mr. Commissioner, how do you intend to do this? If we don't ask them questions, they think what they are doing is right. And like I did mention, we have that role, we have that mandate, we have that duty to give back to our society as citizens of this country. We can enforce them to have that political will. Otherwise, we show them the way out of government in the next 4 years. That's the powers that we have and the powers that we've not deployed over the years. Yeah, one thing is to have a policy. The other thing is to have a policy that addresses the issues built on knowledge and global understanding of the issue. And the last and most important is to have the political will. At times, we can be running fast on the wrong lane, but then we have to always look at what works elsewhere. Use this as a basis of negotiation with government, because either you like it or not, we dialogue with government. They're in charge of policy making. We are just beneficiaries of those policies. How good or bad they are is for our own consumption. But before it becomes bad, we can engage them, ask questions, and it doesn't matter at what level you are doing this. At the federal, you can do it if you have the means and resources. At the state where you are, I can see people from different states here. You can write letters and ask people and ask them questions. And at the local government, you can engage your local government chairman and ask them questions. Sir, ma, what are the measures being taken here? And then the question will be, how can you help? By then, you are developing some level of networking that is needed to create the gap. I mean, to bridge the gap between governance and service delivery, which I think is a very crucial role that we can play.
All right, thank you very much. A brilliant answer you have given. And I'd like to move to Jonathan now. He's been raising his hand for a while. I don't want to keep him. I'll go back to the chat and read out a question to you. So, Jonathan, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Our speaker, we are much grateful for the knowledge. This is powerful. My attention goes to this wire restorations. We have seen so many. I'm from Bauchi State, northeastern part of the country. Last year in my own state, there are many communities that have been affected with flood, with climate, structures has been destroyed by wind and so many other things. But when you look at carefully the people, the policy makers, you are not the one to decide to them what you can do. The only way you can do is pay them advocacy, engage stakeholders and other things. All sorts of activities has been done. From last year, we are approaching another season of rainfall. No any action has been done. No any campaign of tree planting, whatever, but all these activities has been captured in their budget. We have seen so many conferences, so many activities at the federal and the state levels has been going on in the media outlets and so many things. But the real people, the real issue has not been attended. How can we go about it, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Gideon. Jonathan, the question you just asked is a common question. And yeah, I think you have just spoken the minds of almost everybody here, if I'm right, including my own mind. The question is, what are the priorities of those in government? And how we engage them? Unfortunately, this is supposed to be democracy, where we have that right of engagement. But then I think you can't just say that because we are finding it difficult to engage them and we leave them alone. It's still going to be very, very difficult. we can use the instruments of the media. Like I said, I work for CAAP, and one of our major instruments of advocacy is the media. We can use the media if that is the only language that the government understands. But in using the media, you might also need to come from the point of informed knowledge. So what has worked elsewhere? Do we have a template that we can tell the government to adopt? Do we have recommendations that has worked elsewhere? We are now in an era where the only thing that interests government is resources. You know, when you talk to government and you tell them, don't do this because of climate change, they will tell you, if we don't, where are we going to get the money from? Let me give you an instance. In my organization, we frown at decarbonization. We don't want carbon to exist. So because we don't want carbon to exist, we say that we should leave oil in the ground and consider renewable energy. But when we talk to government at the federal level, they will tell you, if you don't get money from Shell, from Chevron, from Orlando, by way of royalty, where are we going to get the resources? So we start looking for options elsewhere that have worked. So when you do advocacy, which I strongly recommend for people on this platform, your advocacy must be built on content and recommendations that have worked, and on the social significance of government going into that way. When I say social significance, it also have their interests protected. For instance, when you talk to your government or to your commissioner of environment and say, okay, now that we are entering into the rainy season in Bauchi, I don't know this, okay, in Bauchi, if we consider this restoration option for this vast land that we are losing out, it's going to increase food security. They will say, is it true? Please tell me more. Then you engage in further. Okay, if this thing increases this food security, it gives people confidence in your government. Politicians want to listen to statements that lose their ego, so to say. Unfortunately, that's where we have found ourselves. So, in a nutshell, in engaging government, you must look for the language that they love to listen to, constructive languages that will not let your content lost along the way. And then you must also rely heavily on the instrument of the media, traditional media, main media, social media option. Tag anybody you can tag on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X. Tag anybody you can tag on Facebook, or anybody you can mention his name on any social media platform that you find yourself. By doing that, they will seek for the audience with you, and then have you have a dialogue on what you think is workable and implementable in the face of the global challenge that we find ourselves with, which Nigeria is not immune against. So it's just getting the right information, looking for the success story that we can share, and the economic/social significance of government going to that way might just have them change their mind. The worst option, which I don't recommend, is by way of protest and by way of going to the street to express grievance against government inaction. But that should be the last option when every other options have failed.
All right, thank you again. I think I can still see these people are just like they want to really suck you dry. Yeah, in for that as well. Please, yes. Okay.
I can barely hear you. Do you want to come again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. So I'm saying, how can ecosystem processes or spices be restored?
Yeah.
Okay, how can ecosystem processes or species be restored?
Yeah. Be restored. Okay, so if you look at the slide, I don't know if I'm audible enough. If you look at the slide I shared, I also attempted to look at the best practices. The first being enhancement, when you try to make some sort of recovery or restoration but I also emphasize that you can't restore back to the natural state, right? And then I also mentioned rehabilitation, reclamation, and replacement. But then I also remember I said that all these processes would depend largely on the level of degradation, the timing of the degradation, and the type of degradation. I remember I also gave an example of the state I come from, Ekiti State, and a community there called Ijero that is known for massive artisanal mining. So Ijero is known for massive artisanal mining of mica, sheets, gemstone, every other precious metals, as you can say. But then government has failed to refill the pits and of course to reclaim the land. So when you are considering the type of restoration measure to adopt, I'm not going to suggest enhancement for Ijero, for instance. Neither will I suggest reclamation. What is strongly recommended is replacement. Let the people vacate. But then I also understand the place of cultural affinity and distortion to identity that has to do with tradition and the likes. So people are always not wanting to leave their environment, not trusting government to take them back where reparation effort is concluded. So it depends on the dialogue that you have with the state and the level of understanding. But basically, going by the literatures in the world, you either do enhancement, rehabilitation, reclamation, and replacement. But enhancement, rehabilitation, reclamation will not take you back to the other pre-degraded condition. It's just you managing an injury and living through it. You know, doctors, we always say we can always devise means by which you manage this ailment. They have come to stay because of the level of distortion, right? So you can't take them back. The only way by which you can restore back to normalcy is to replace and allowing time and nature to heal the processes. But most of the time, people are not ready for that. And that's why you see still on the alarming rate almost everywhere.
All right.
Thank
you very much.
All right.
Someone says, yeah, how can and last miles community be motivated to drive these policies to be implemented in Nigeria?
I lost you at some point. Do you want to take it again?
Yes. TSO and miles community be motivated to drive these policies to be implemented in Nigeria.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to come again? I got the later part of the question, but not the...
Can you hear me now? I think the network is good. Yes. All right.
Yes.
I'll take it. How can CSOs and last mile community be motivated to drive these policies to be implemented in Nigeria? Yeah, mute, sir.
Sorry. So until recently that we have huge proliferation of entities that are not supposed to be within the CSO space now in the CSO space. CSOs are known to uphold ideals and values. And these ideals are premiumed on knowledge and information and what you consider appropriate per time. But because we have some entities within the CSO's enclave that now look only for the interest of you to engage government on the basis of knowledge. Because when you engage government and you make suggestions that are not knowledge driven, the question will be, do you want to come again the next time? So you must have done your assignment quite frankly and make your recommendations deeply and engage government with questions that they cannot but answer. For instance, if you are talking to government to consider to look at the mining environment and rejuvenate it for the interest of all, you don't come without you understanding the environmental impact of what is being mined. You don't come to engage government on why it must consider the enhancement in Bauchi or replacement in Ekiti without understanding the cost benefits. They will ask you, what is it for us as politicians? You must have done these matrices before you engage government. Like I did mention, unfortunately, we are dealing with people who are only self-serving, selfish in their considerations. So you must let them know that this is for your own benefit in the long run. You have provided that office to provide social services for the people. And this is one of them. So CSOs and original landowners and even landholders must be able to talk to government in a way that they understand leveraging the options I shared earlier without adding protests as another option when those ones have failed. And then try to do the social economic matrices, the significance for those in government to also adopt as a way forward. But then all this method depends on the peculiarity of your state. I don't know if I'm still audible. I can hear some background noise. So those processes depends on what works in your state or what has been working in your state and the level of engagement that you have, with your state government, as the case may be. Anka Emmanuel, yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
I guess you mistakenly.
Please, if you are not speaking, kindly unmute your mic and ensure that your mic is always muted because it's causing some sort of distractions, and we all on this call might not be able to enjoy the full benefit of having this session. So it's important that your mic is always muted. Check again and again to ensure that you're not causing any form of distraction or disruption to this session. All right, thank you very, very much, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Olamide Martins. We are delighted to connect with you, have you on this call, and glean wisdom from your wealth of experience and the knowledge you have shared with us today. I think one last question before I allow you to go. One last question. Our network is been a bit of a challenge, so you just pardon us. Yes, all right, I found the question. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful presentation. Climate restoration is a good idea and have to start from the grassroots where trees have to be planted within our various homes. My question is, most of our environment have been occupied with houses and major infrastructure where planting of trees were supposed to be. So in this situation, what can we do?
That question resonates quite clearly with me. And I remember just yesterday when I was returning home from work, I had that conversation with a friend in the car that I was. And I told him that what measure can the state government adopt to decongest Lagos, for instance, and say that if you are not making, let's say, 1 million per annum, please take this amount and return back to your state. And the guy just laughed about it and said it's not going to work. So the conclusion is everybody wants to have a representative. Every family wants to have a representative in Lagos. And that's the story of urbanized cities in Nigeria. Everybody wants to be in Kano, everybody wants to be in Abuja, everybody wants to be in Lagos, everybody wants to be in Port Harcourt. Then the question is, what are they doing there in those states? If you have the resources that can keep you, afloat in those states, please stay. If you don't, please leave. You are consistent and above. We understand that there is this notion that you can survive in Lagos. Yes, urbanization is the challenge of this country, and not thanks to our government. I also remember I had this discussion with a colleague that, if you look at Lagos-Ibadan corridor, that expressway is supposed to be an industrial layout where people naturally should just stay there and have their well-being covered, social security provided without coming to Lagos every day, reduce the price. But then governments are not doing this. So to me, it appears to be a deliberate decision, a calculation of the political class to keep them in power. Let's get people concentrated. Let's have social services and amenities provided at the center, where we can control the inflow and outflow of people for our political significance or gains, not for the good of all. Yes, places where trees ought to be growing are now industrial layouts. Places that have natural affinity with coastline that have to be tourist centers across the Bar of Lagos are now being eroded as nightclubs or the like. Some can say that it's still serving that purpose anyway, but it could have been better. So it depends on those are the aims of affairs and what their priorities are. Naturally, I would expect that government should begin to consider the congestion plan. But then this will work by, look at Ekiti, for instance, compare the economy of Ekiti with that of Lagos. Somebody will still want to come to Lagos, even if you're going to sleep under the bridge and then make his ends meet, rather than stay in Ekiti. Even the notion that I'm living in Lagos, the question is, where in Lagos and what are you doing in Lagos? You understand? So we still need to have those honest conversations with our government. Countries that have thrived in the world have decongested. For instance, between Manchester and London, I heard that it's just 30 minutes train. If you want to build those clusters of urbanization, you interconnect them with transport systems that works perfectly well. But look at Lagos to Ibadan. Yes, there's a train service now. How effective, how updated, and how efficient. So until we address these issues of inflow of people in urban cities, putting pressure on the social services, then we just might be doing more harm to the environment that we intend to protect. You know, serenity is still somewhere in Ekiti, in Ibadan, in Oshogbo, but then people have abandoned, you know, serenity, social safety to economic prowess, which to me is the basis of, you know, the concern and the problem that we have here. But all this could be directed or aligned, addressed by policies of government that understands development. It's not a rocket science. It's about decongesting the center, providing services that will entice people back home. I mean, security, for instance. How many farmers want to remain in Ekiti? But if there's security, I can go back and do mechanized farming and make as much money, if not more, with my friend that is in Lagos. You know, compared to my friend that is in Lagos, I can also watch my DSTV in Bauchi. I can watch it in Gombe. I can be attuned with happenings in the world anywhere I am without being in Lagos. So each time I'm coming to Lagos, I feel anxious and excited because I'm coming to the commercial capital. Everywhere should have some level of commercial ventures as far as development is concerned. But we can have this conversation elsewhere. It's not popular in the arena of politicians. They don't want to hear it. But that is the idea.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think by now we should have exhausted all the questions. I want to ensure that I have given everybody ample opportunity to ask their questions.
I can see another question from Abuja. Samuel B. Onidarafumi. Onidarafumi. I wanted to ask if there's a specific blueprint to the restoration of land, or you just go with the flow depending on how the damage on the land is. And I think it's a very, very important question. So he is seeking to ask if there's a blueprint. And I remember I said in my presentation, even though I'm not done detailed work in this area, the only thing close to this was when I was in my former workplace and I work as a wetland consultant, just for a 6-month project. So I don't know of any blueprints, but like I did mention, this is our role, our social mandate as citizens of this country to ask government this question. Because like I mentioned, the type of measures that you adopt in restoring back the ecosystem will depend on the level of damage and the timing of the damage. So if there's any blueprint, I want to presume that this blueprint will detail this, the point I mentioned, but then I don't know for a fact, and I don't want to stand here and say, you know, any statement that I cannot, you know, back with facts. But we can as well go and make this finding and then hopefully come back to educators. I'll be so glad to have that information. and I can as well go forward to ask some detailed questions too. So for Nigerians are very good with policy making. Implementation remains, the main. But it's a take-home task for all of us.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We are glad that you are doing this for us and with us. Thank you for the support. We are indeed very grateful. On behalf of the leadership of United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, we want to sincerely appreciate you for taking our time to come on the session today out of your busy schedule. Thank you so much for coming. I believe our actors too have had a great time. They've learned a lot, and to be good to see them apply the things they have learned, and also try as much as possible to ensure that we are doing the needful in our communities and around us. So thank you so much. Thank you, and we want to actually wish you well and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, too.
All right, that brings us to the end of the first session. I've been trying to find out if our next speaker is available. So I'm seeing I have a question, please. I don't know if the question is for the speaker that just ended his session. You can always share your questions using the email that you have with you, the email that we use as correspondence every week. You can always share your questions using that. And again, yes, I don't know if Mr. Benjamin is on this call. If you're on this call, we'd like you to quickly signify. It's important to know that you are here with us. And I promised I was going to give Chizobam opportunity to speak about what she has learned so far. So, yes, Chizobam, I think you can have the floor now. If you're on the call.
You want me to speak about today or last class? Basically everything.
Basically everything. What you've learned so far. What has the experience been for you? And I believe we could learn one or two things from that too as well.
Okay, as at the last class here, they talked about deforestation being one of the causes of climate changes. And then they talked about how that can lead to what's it called? The world warming, the global warming rather. That's what I learned from last week's class. Then what else? Then I due to my personal research and things I've read about, deforestation can lead to loss of carbon, because carbon is usually stored inside trees and all that. So I believe that if trees will I say, I won't say plants, hell no. For example, like we have like forests that have lots of trees in it. I believe if they are not being cut down, it will help the climate a lot in a positive way, obviously, yes. So that's basically it. Then about today's class, he talked about what did he talk about again? Oh my god. Sorry. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here with you. I'm here. We're all listening.
Okay. So about today's class, he talked about the environment, and then he talked about ecosystem restoration. Then he had different, layouts of the ecosystem, and we talked about environment and how it's fundamental to the quality of human life and social life. So yeah, that's basically about basically what I learned today.
All right, thank you so much. It's important that we get feedback from this platform from time to time, just to ensure that we're learning and we're not just coming to class and just passing time. We're actually being imparted. We are internalizing the things that we are learning on this platform so that we can become better people as we pass through this program, and at the end eventually become better climate actors and be able to contribute our own quota to the environment and to the world at large. So I just needed to put that out so that we know that it is important. We are here and we are here with our hearts. We're not just passing time or just marking attendance, but the actual core substance
Right.
that is
By
being
the way,
communicated.
speaking of the attendance, sorry to cut you short. It's not working. Like when I say it's not working, like I don't know, probably it has expired or something. Like it's going through here, but it's like the time has expired to be able to access.
You mean the
it.
attendance,
So,
right?
yes, the attendance link.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for, I think I've seen that in the comments and would work on it. And I believe before we leave this place, it's going to be functioning the way it should.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for coming around. I don't know if somebody has something, a comment, yeah, I think we can allow comments. If you have comments, you have concerns, you can just go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
We are hearing you,
this
but
is
we can't hear you.
Alex.
You're not loud and clear. We need you to be more
Can
audible.
you hear me?
It's better now. You're not loud and clear.
All right. So, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better now.
All right. So I wanted to ask, it's a concern I have, and it's regards to this very program. I want to ask, is there any form of sponsorship, like possibly towards funding and all that, when we want to get like this? Because I believe we're told we're gonna go into the breakout section where we get to carry out a project. So I want to know, is it funded or not? Yeah, thank you.
All right. You are breaking, but I think I can put it together. I think your question made sense. And yes, if I get you clearly, what you're asking is there sponsorship for this particular program? Like, are you going to get funding to do maybe projects or things relating to that or regarding that? Am I correct? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, very correct. Exactly.
All right. So up until now, I don't know if maybe after now something like that can happen. But as we speak, there's no funding, there's no sponsorship. This particular program is for climate actors, enthusiasts, people that are passionate about climate change, and will be willing to do something about it. So it's going to be you all the way. I need you to know that and settle that in your mind. We need you, like we need you to know that. And just settle it in your mind that this thing, you are doing it. And you are doing it. You are doing it for humanity. You are doing it for the good of Nigeria, your community, your state, and also to make you a better person yourself. So that is that. I don't know if your question has been answered. No sponsorship, no funding as we speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Because, in as much as we are doing this for humanity purposes, I still believe that it can be addressed with this need can be addressed with resources when sufficient resources are actually available. So that's why I asked to have an idea. And if up until now, yeah.
And Promise, you want to say something? Please go ahead, Promise.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me, sir?
Morning.
Okay, I want to ask about the project that we are supposed to submit that by 31st. I'm asking if we have to go to, maybe let's say you want to carry out your project in school or in church or in any of those artisanal quarters. Do you need to go to those places first to make inquiry, or you can just go ahead to make your plans? Do you need to go there physically to make inquiries about those things, or you can just look out how the place is and then jot down the things that the projects that you want to carry out there?
All right, thank you so much for your question. I want you to know that one of the things we are doing with this program is that we are trying to also train you to look out for partnerships, be able to collaborate on your own, and ensure that you are getting the conversation going. So it is important to note that you would have to first go to the community, speak with the stakeholders. If it is a school, you go to the school, you speak with the principal, you ensure that you come to a sort of agreement on date and time why that you'll be coming for the project. If it's a community development project, you have to note that you'd have to speak with the community people, the people at the ends of affairs, people that are in places of authority in the community, and get their buy-in and ensure that they are in support of what you are doing. And you don't know, from there you could get some sort of sponsorship, some sort of partnership, some sort of maybe little funding. You never say never. Anything is possible. And of course, that also answers the last person's question. You'd, on your own, seek for funding, seek for partnership, be able to collaborate, learn these skills. They are skills that will actually benefit you on the long run, because sincerely, what you are doing is called social impact, and it's a non-profit, right? So you need to learn and understand the dynamics of the sector. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if that has a question. All right, I can see one more hand. Samuel, can unmute.
Hello, good afternoon. So I have a question concerning the YouTube page. I'm a bit confused because when I first joined, I missed the onboarding session, which I caught up.
All right. I had a bit of network issue. I'm back now. And I think Samuel was the one talking earlier. So Samuel, I didn't hear what you said. I'd like to get that again.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Please, Joseph, I hope you can hear me. How is everything? How is work? Thank you so much for the wonderful responses. It's actually my pleasure to be part of these wonderful sessions and this masterclass. My one is a little bit clarifications regarding the community project. Aside from mobilizing and liaising with the community member for somebody to get a support or partnership to execute the community project, is there any other support that is coming from the CAAP, SDS and Nigeria CAAP project? Is there any support maybe in terms of either incentive, either materials, either some little bit form of maybe designs in terms of flyers or anything is coming from the CAAP members? Is there anything, or we need to use our own initiative and our personal idea in coming up with something we need to do and in seeing how we can address this particular course? Then the last other thing is the attendance is not opening. I don't know if you can work towards it, seeing how you can rectify that. Thank you. Over.
All right, thank you for your question. I think I shared another link. I've reshared another link. I think you can make do with that. And about the sponsorship or support you are asking for, like I mentioned earlier, there's no funding for this program. You just need to ensure that you make do with whatever you can. Get your own, you can get people to partner with you. It's important you do that because a tree does not make a forest. Everyone needs to synergize to ensure that what is what doing at all is what doing well. So it's onus lies on you, right? The responsibility is yours to ensure that whatever you are doing the best. Because believe you me, this is a global platform, and whatever you are doing here is going to be having a global representation. So it is important that you do what is of the best quality, ensure excellence, because you don't know how far your project will go and you don't know what doors it can open for you. So it is important you do the best you can do under the circumstance.
Okay, so I can see the attendance register is more of Ask Me form. Are we filling the attendance register through the Ask Me form?
Just fill the Ask Me form.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But
Ojechi?
last other thing is about the slide. Our last sessions, the slide you promised to share with us, and these sessions too, please. I would appreciate if you can get the slide through our emails.
Hello, sorry, Joseph, can I just quickly add to that? I was going to respond to an answer from the last speaker. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, please, sir. Go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. And thank you for the responses so far, Joseph. And we sincerely appreciate. And congratulations once again to each and everyone for making it thus far. Getting to learn each and every day, we get to learn, unlearn and relearn. Very, very important. To the aspect of projects, I want to try as much as possible to make it clear to each and everyone that I had the moderator here saying that the project is a self-funded project sort of earlier. But despite that, there are a lot of things that we've achieved in SDSN, and a lot of projects which we've achieved that it was achieved through partnership. Most especially project that has to be capital intensive, and most especially for accelerator programs, I'm very sure that they are not requiring you to engage on a capital intensive project. I don't really know what your concern is. Very last speaker that spoke about projects that has to do with community, and I don't think at any point you are asked to carry out maybe a community-based development project. Maybe you want to, I don't know maybe what exactly is your perspective regarding that. However, maybe I should just do a recap of what the phase 2 is for this program. The phase 2 is basically the climate education and sensitization, the research and workshop. The research and workshop is something you get to do from your locale, that's from wherever you are connecting from, and that's where you are going to carry out your what they call it now. What I'm explaining. Okay, as you can see on the screen, thank you. You can see it now. Okay, as you can see on the screen, the program timeline for phase 2 is basically on climate education and sensitization, while we also have the climate research and workshop. The climate education and sensitization, we believe that each and every participant you've received a link for you to submit your information, most especially your proposal for the climate project which you want to carry out. But most importantly, you need to know that this is an individual project. That's the first thing you need to know, most especially the climate education and sensitization. This is an individual project, and you already have options of various groups you can get to reach out to. Various groups you can get to reach out to. And there are some exceptions when it comes to the mode of dissemination of your climate project. Someone is saying the submit button is not working. There are some exceptions when it comes to this dissemination mode. Maybe it's a fiscal project, or it's something you want to carry out virtually, or something that is hybrid. If you are doing an hybrid activity, it's going to make you have to present it well before it's going to be approved by the program managers. I'm very sure people that get to carry out fiscal activities, maybe you have a community of people. And okay, recently I was talking with someone and he was telling me that he wants to carry out a project for religious centers. And I told him, I said, you are welcome to my church, because yeah, we have a huge crowd there. We have a huge, it's a very good place whereby you can get to engage different people. beyond the schools, beyond the four walls of schools, there are a lot of groups, and there is a certain number of people which you are to reach. And this is meant to be a one-time project. Please, it's meant to be a one-time activities, so activity per se. So you are not, it's not something you have to keep doing over and over and over and over again, except you want to implement yours in phases. But please note that this is not meant to be capital intensive. And when you're also selecting your location, it should be somewhere that's within your vicinity. It should be somewhere that's within your vicinity. You can seek assistance from your colleagues, maybe people from your colleagues at work, in school, from wherever you are connecting from, whereby they can get to engage you, you can get to work on that together. But most importantly, like earlier said, this project is something that you have to do, and it's meant to, you have to do it individually. So I'm moving on to the second one, which has to do with climate research and workshop. This you are doing collectively as a group. So I think there are like 8 thematic focus for the climate research and sensitization, the climate research and workshop. And you are going to be made known to those thematic areas. You are going to be grouped according to the thematic areas. And each and every one are to carry out a research and on the specific topics, and which you are going to host your own workshop on that. And part of it is to also see to publishing your research work on your name. So, which is another great benefit. And I just don't want to say that, sometimes we think there are some programs we get to, and they are not measuring digits. But there are a lot of things you are going to stand to benefit beyond the digit, beyond that money. I mean, beyond that. I remember the lady that gave one of the quote one, that's 2022 quote, Chizoba, that gave a feedback regarding the program. And I remember things she said, the lot of international things, even the innovation that she launched during the program was what took her to COP 27 then. The innovation she launched. So, and she has used that innovation in so many to win so many grants today. And we've seen a lot of people that just come on this program and said, through the innovation I was able to ideate through this program, I've been able to do this, I've been able to do that. So there are a whole lot of opportunities. And I just want to advise each and every one of us to keep to this, and most importantly, keep to the dates that are already listed out. And we are going to be having, I don't know what the program managers are deciding regarding that, but we are still requesting for an adjustment regarding the assessment and knowledge evaluations. And I mean the assessment and knowledge evaluation for next week. So if you are not going to be having it on Friday, because and also considering the Muslim brethren, because that might be your prayer time. So it's likely that it's going to be shifted to Saturday, but you are going to receive information regarding that during the next on the next email communication you receive from the email managers. And also, to quickly answer the questions in the comment section, please, if you have a question, maybe you should just hit the comment section and drop your question. Are we going to be awarded certificates of this program? So, yeah, there are awards beyond certificates. There are also awards which they always present to the top 10 climate champions, which is always implemented during the Conference of Youth and Environment and Climate. And as a successful participant of this program, you also stand to participate in the Conference of Youth on Environment and Climate. I know for other participants, they always go through a rigorous screening process before they accept them in to participate. But as participants of the Climate Actor Accelerator, successful participants of Climate Actor Accelerator program, you stand a chance to participate in the Conference of Youth on Environment and Climate. So moving on is the phase 3. I feel maybe I should just briefly say something about phase 3. Please, you can just scroll up a bit, and I'm going to. So someone is asking the maximum number of people you can reach. You are to decide that, but I believe the minimum number is 10 or 15 or thereabout. So for the sensitization, and most importantly, please take pictures. Take pictures. The pictures are meant to be evidence of your project, I mean your sensitization activity, but most importantly, those pictures are for you. Because when you are presenting your impact story outside this program, in those applications, they will ask you that share links to projects you've done in line to climate, in line to environmental sustainability, in line to climate action, or anything that has to do with activities of climate and environment. You know, when they ask you to share video content of a project you've done, these are things you can easily relate to. So take good pictures and ensure you have them well documented and tell your story to the world very well. So the phase 3, I think I've answered that question. The phase 3 is basically on innovation. We are going to be having a climate innovation, which we start from 1st to 6th of, 1st to 31st of May. And it's going to be for a month. The boot camp will be holding 4th of May. I believe that should be a Saturday. And selected participants from phase 2 are going to be notified regarding the boot camp. So, and the innovation process is between 5th to 25th. But by now, you should start thinking about solutions. Start thinking about ideate possible solutions within your environment. Identify problems, challenges in your community. You know, it's so sad when I see a lot of grants that are being focused on climate and environment, and I don't really have a community I can push it to, or people that I know that there are some guys that I push it to, but beyond that, we also want a lot of people to benefit from this. We want a lot of Nigerians to benefit from this. So there are a lot of ongoing, international grants, international programs that you can benefit from in as much as you have a sustainable solution. So that's being said, these are the basic activities for phase 2 and phase 3 of this program. I want to check the comment section if there are questions, while I also take the people that their hands are up. What about some of us that wants to hold virtual conference? Okay, I hope you can get to speak on that, Oluwole. I want to have more clarification regarding that. So can we have Godwin? Godwin, please unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you.
Speak.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Oluwole. What I'm saying.
Let's have Godwin.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning. This is Godwin from Anambra State.
Okay, good morning, Godwin.
I have a little question, or let me say clarification. You know, while you were mentioning all these assignments and tasks to take, you've been emphasizing on it being an individual task. But then I'm asking, do we have an expectation of being grouped, maybe by state or something like that? Because maybe you have a project to carry out. Probably when you are being grouped by states, let's say I'm in Anambra State, it would be easier maybe collaborating with my fellow actor in Anambra State, visiting a particular school or any place to sensitize or educate them on the climate changes. I think it would be more efficient or easier that way, instead of just barging into a place all alone with anybody or any fellow actor. So I'm asking, are we still expecting to be grouped by state, or is it just individual all through? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your question. I believe I can take the last person. Samuel, please unmute your mic.
Hello,
Samuel, you can unmute your mic. I will respond to your question, Godwin. Yeah,
Hello,
you can speak on.
All right.
Yes.
I have two questions. Firstly, I missed the onboarding session 3 weeks ago, but I watched the video on YouTube, like I was told in the email. But whenever I open the YouTube page, I see, like, instead of having our master class there, I'll see two different master classes. Like, as this one is going on now, another master class is going on YouTube, and it's different content. So I'll need clarification on that, if we should pay attention to both classes or we should just focus on the one that's on Zoom. Then secondly, I wanted to ask about the project for the scopes we're supposed to submit. I know they said we should reach out through email, which I did, but I've not received a response yet on how we should go ahead with the project, on how we should go ahead with the sensitization. And I believe you have also clarified that there will be no funding or sponsorship for the project. So I want to ask, what kind of projects are we expected to run? That's my last question.
Okay. Oh, please, I need to clarify something. You have to carry out an activity, a sensitization activity in your community. It can be, and if you're a student, it can be you getting to engage students in your hostel. It can be you getting to engage maybe your club. Yeah, okay, that's very good. You're a core member. So it can be you engaging with your core member. We know that we have a lot of, now we have more of SDG, CDS clubs across different states. But beyond that, you can also get to focus, maybe your discussion that day is focused on climate action. And so I'm just sharing a different audience. It can be in your PTA, not necessarily in the four walls of school. So, in fact, priority is not being given to schools. So depend on the context of what you are going to do there. And I saw someone that was saying that the submission link is not active. The link is very active, and we have some people that have already submitted what they intend to do. But most importantly, it's something that must be within your reach, and it must not be capital intensive. So, and something within your reach, within your location, most importantly. To the other questions which you asked, the first one regarding masterclass session, then I'll also respond to the question by Godwin. The first question regarding masterclass session, yeah, we are running back-to-back masterclass session on different programs. So when you go on our YouTube link, you will see that we are on live on different programs. But for the program managers, we give you access to the specific link you need for these sessions. So you don't need to join a program that is meant for SDG advocates now. You're selected for climate actors. So you don't need to join a program that is meant for SDG advocates. Focus on climate actors. So I think one of the things I will also let them know, I think some of them are on the call, they are going to send you specific YouTube link for week 1 and week 3, today's link and also the recording session. So once you click on that link, it takes you to that specific video for each of these weeks. And I believe Mr. Joseph will have responded to that. Things like learning resources, and, those contents are going to be shared with you. Receive a very detailed information regarding that.
Sorry, I didn't get what you said.
Okay.
It's breaking.
Hello?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's network. It's breaking. I'm only hearing bits and pieces of what you're saying.
Oh, can you all hear me now?
It's better now.
Okay.
It's better.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Like I said, the masterclass session, we are running different masterclass sessions. So when you go on our YouTube platform on a normal Friday morning, you will see a lot of SDSN is live on this program, on that program, on this program. But your own focus, you are not even meant to join on YouTube. So if you are on this program and you are joining on YouTube, you are wrong, because we've made a provision for you to join, and even many of you are not joining the sessions, which is going to bounce back when it comes to screening process. But we have no business with that. It's just for you to do the normal thing, ensure you fill your attendance. And we have people that they are not joining on YouTube, they are learning on, they are joining through Zoom. Most especially programs that we have over 2,000 participants, they don't run on Zoom. So I just have to say this clearly so that you can understand better. But what we also do is the next email communication you are going to receive, you are going to see direct link for the onboarding session, week 1, week 2, week 3, which is today, for the masterclass session. You are going to receive the link, the YouTube link for each of this session, and to help you to easily join those, to easily rewatch those masterclass session. To the first question, I think from Godwin, regarding are we going to be grouped by state? So for this program, we are not going to be grouped by state. I think we have ever mentioned that there's not going to be any. And at the end of the program, we're also going to be added to the WhatsApp group for the climate actors. There's a WhatsApp group which each and every one of us are going to be added. And to the person that talked about certificates, yeah, for each and every phases of this program, most especially phase 2 and phase 3, you are going to be certified. So you are going to be certified for phase 2, you are going to be certified for phase 3. So even if you are not receiving certificate as a climate champion, maybe because you had an innovation and innovation was selected, you receive the certificate of excellence as a climate actor. So which are those who successfully completed phase 2 of the program. But if you don't complete phase 2 and you did not complete phase 3, don't expect any certificate. That means your participation in phase 1 of the program was very low, or you didn't even participate at all. So that's the meaning. And I feel, let me see if there are questions that are specific to what I've shared. But okay, there are no questions in the Q&A, but in the comment section, I want to be sure that each and every one of us have been able to attend to our questions. So, okay, I can see a question in line to, are we going to have a letter of approval? So another thing which you get to do is you definitely get a letter, that's an introduction letter, maybe in form to any group you are submitting to. So that introduces you, and you don't have to speak more. It introduces the project, the specific activity you are coming to that group to carry out. So I believe that answers your question, and I believe all concerns have been attended to. But most importantly, please ensure you participate actively and you don't miss out in any of the key activities of this program. Yeah, it's definitely always a life transforming one for each and every one of us, and we want you to make good use of your time. All right. So I want to believe that there is no more question as regards all that has been said so far. But if you have a question, please raise your hand. I want to ensure that every concerns are being each and everyone's concern are being attended to. Each and everyone's questions are being attended to. The next week we also hope to have winners. Can you unmute your mic? And ask your question?
Okay, good morning, sir.
All right,
thank you for the briefing. At some point, I actually had some network glitch. So the point where you are talking about the submission of the something I received in my email communication about the project we are going to carry out, the proposal for climate education and sensitization that will be submitted in at least around 7 days time, which is 31st. I don't know, but it should be around 31st. I am asking, I don't know, can you really recap a little bit, please? Because I was having a very serious network glitch at the end, please.
Okay. I believe each and everyone on this call have received the link we've all received the link for submission of sensitization. Okay, maybe I should just take each and everyone that wants to ask a question first. And Samuel, I've attended to your question, but your hand is still up. Okay, Samuel, you can unmute your mic if you want to ask a question.
Yes,
Please,
sir. I asked about the attendance. For those that missed the one, like I said, I missed, then I had to catch up through YouTube. So for those that missed the week one attendance, is there like a penalty or something?
Okay. I think a link has been reached. Just ensure. So if you miss the attendance, maybe last week, you still have a grace because you are going to feel today, you are going to feel next week, and I believe you attended the first session, so you still have a grace. And yeah, so just ensure you fill for today. The link has been shared. Just ensure you fill it before you leave this meeting. And I believe okay, I can still see Promise, and Promise, you can unmute your mic and ask your question, please.
Thank you, sir. I was asking about the proposed project that will be carried out. Is there a deadline for it after submission of that, the deadline of that 31st? Is there a deadline for us to carry out the project? Thank you.
So all right, thank you, Promise. And this will be the last question. It's already 12:07, and some of us wants to go and pray, especially our Muslim brethren. So the very first question is the question asked on the sensitization and education, climate education and sensitization, how to go about that, submission and all. Like stated on the form, it's stated clearly what, in as much as you can define what exactly you want to do. I can see someone that is saying the link, which of the link is not working? Please, can you specify, is it the climate education and sensitization form that is not working, or the ask me form that was shared with you that is not working? So going back to the questions, you are to fill that form, and that form presents to the program manager what exactly you want to do, what exactly you want to carry out in your state. And they've shared that, and they already shared different groups, possible groups, which you can get to definitely engage with. And like I earlier said, these necessarily do not have to be maybe a school. It might be any community group. It might be within your hostel for those who are students. Any group which you feel that are very close, which you see that are very close to you. And these are the right group of people. They might be artisans and different. It might be a religious center, either you're a Christian or you're a Muslim, any group. And talking about the duration of the program, there is no particular deadline to it, but it has a timeline. So because there are two definitions regarding that. If you are saying that deadline is, I know that some people always like to, that's when they would like to carry out that project, maybe 28th, or instead of doing the project early in the period of the month. So the timeline, the project starts from 1st of April till 21st of April. So you have 3 weeks to carry that out. But it's a one-time project. So it's not something you have to carry out maybe all through the 3 weeks of the program, except if what you conceptualize is meant to be carried out on different days. But we expect you to work on a one-time project, and which must be within your location. Maybe your where you reside, or where you work, or where you study, either of those three. And once you are done, most importantly, you have to do recordings. Because you are going to submit a report, and that one has a deadline. You have to submit your report before 24th of April. And for the climate research, you're also going to be submitting your report before 26th of April. So climate research between, like I said, before the next week masterclass session, we are going to receive more information regarding the climate research and workshop. However, it's not every one of us that are going to be ended or that are going to be grouped at the end of it all, because it's only those who are successful with phase 1 of this program that are going to be grouped into those thematic areas, and you can start working on your research and every other thing. So those are the basic information that I think I have to share to the questions which you've asked. And the link is working. The link that was shared earlier by Mr. Joseph is working. I've actually clicked that link myself. Please ensure you copy the link and ensure you fill that form before you leave. So I'm going to share. Let me copy it myself and see how I can reshare again. The link is working 100%. So please ensure that you copy it. And so the person that said the climate education and sensitization form is not accepting response, it's also accepting response. Maybe there's a question you didn't fill, and there is no how it's going to accept response. So those are the basic informations for now. And if there are other key information that you need to be aware of, these you are going to receive via email. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Mr. Joseph.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. I'd like to encourage everyone to go back to the YouTube links that have been shared. Your assessment is fast approaching, and it is important that you actually pay attention to those videos, ensure you learn everything that you need to learn, and just prepare yourself for the assessment such that you are sure that when you get into that assessment mode, you will do well to outshine others or be the best you can be. So please go back to those links, rewatch those videos, prepare for your assessment, and that will just be nice. Okay. One moment, I can see Mr. Benjamin on the call. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I think my session will be next, so just join for now.
So your session was scheduled for 11 a.m., sir?
Exactly, yeah. So that will be after this one. Yeah, so.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Mr. Benjamin? Can Mr. Benjamin hear me? Hello, can anyone hear me on this call? What's going on? All right, awesome. So we've actually come to the end of the session today. I believe we'll have to reschedule Mr. Benjamin's session for a later date that will be communicated to us all. I want to appreciate everyone for coming. for the session today, and I believe you've had an amazing time. You've had a fast, educative moment. It's been value for your time, and we really want to appreciate you for paying keen attention and, of course, sharing your concerns. Thank you very much for coming for your session today, and we'll definitely communicate to you via the email, and have a wonderful day ahead. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you next week. All right, guys.